Hey, if you followed my channel any, you know that I am a big fan of 357 SIG, and you probably know that I have spent some time lately getting together a good carry gun by converting my Beretta 96 to 357 SIG. And since so many people know that I like 357 SIG, they've been asking me, well, how good are the ballistics on 357 SIG actually, and which brands do you like? Which brands of ammo do you prefer in 357 SIG? So today I thought I would do a little range comparison of 6 of my favorite 357 SIG ammos, let everyone see how they compare to each other and how they perform ballistically overall. Now the 6 different ammunitions we're going to be shooting today will be from Corbon, Gold Dot, 2 different loadings from Underwood, 1 from Doubletap, and finally 1 from Minuteman ammunition. I'm going to put 20 rounds of all 6 of these ammos down my barrel and see how they perform and how they compare to one another. Now first we're going to start with 115 grain jacketed hollow points from Corbon. Now the company rates these at a speed of 1500 feet per second and has them hitting with 575 foot-pounds of energy. So let's go out to the backyard range and see how this actually performs. Now, while I'm doing this, I will try to edit all the shooting video down to where it is minimally boring because like I've said in the past, watching someone else shoot is like watching them scratch their ass. It's always nice when you scratch your own ass, but it's really boring watching someone else do it. Same thing with shooting, so like I said, I will edit it down to where it's the minimal boring level that it can possibly be. Now, before we get into any actual ballistic results here, let's keep in mind that different ammos are rated for different barrel lengths. Often they will be rated for a 4-inch barrel. The gun I'm using has a 4 3/4 inch barrel, so that might make a little bit of a difference, but it won't be a lot of a difference. If you don't know what your ammo is rated for, well, look on the box. If it says 4-inch, well, then it's obviously a 4-inch. If it says nothing, then it's probably a 5-inch or sometimes even a 6-inch barrel they're using to rate their ammo. With that in mind, the 115 grain jacketed hollow point Corbon round actually achieved 1,523 feet per second on average. That translates out to about 592 foot-pounds of energy on impact. That's actually a small increase over what the box says, so that ammo is performing to spec, and those are pretty good numbers. As far as self-defense handgun rounds are concerned, that's a pretty hot round. Alright, now let's move on to 125 grain jacketed hollow point Speer Gold Dots. Now the manufacturer rates these at 1,375 feet per second, 1,375 feet per second, and that translates out to 506 foot-pounds of energy. So let's take them out to the backyard range and see how they do. Alright, after 20 rounds, the 125 grain jacketed hollow point Speer Gold Dots averaged 1,428 feet per second, which translates out to 566 foot-pounds of energy. That's quite a bit better than they were rated. That's actually a pretty good increase. I'm betting these were rated in a 4-inch barrel, and that longer barrel of the Beretta is giving them a little extra oomph. Now, these are a little heavier than the first round we tested since they're 125 grain, but they're moving slower, but not considerably slower, and the actual foot-pounds at the end is actually pretty close, so still a good self-defense round. Alright, let's move on to our first ammo from Underwood, and it is a 125 grain jacketed hollow point from Underwood, and the manufacturer rates them at 1,475 feet per second, which translates out to 604 foot-pounds. Now that's a pretty good rating for a 125 grain bullet, so let's go out to the backyard range and see if it lives up to that rating. Okay, out of the Beretta barrel, the 125 grain jacketed hollow point from Underwood reached speeds on average of 1,530 feet per second. That's pretty fast. And that translates out to 650 foot-pounds of energy. That's getting close to 357 mag territory there. That's a pretty potent round. Underwood tends to load their stuff hot, and this doesn't seem to be any exception. This round is screaming. Alright, now let's look at the second entry from Underwood here, the 115 grain Extreme Penetrator round from Underwood ammunition. Now they rate this round at 1,450 feet per second, and they say it hits with 537 foot-pounds of energy. Let's go out to the backyard range and see if that holds up. Okay, out of the Beretta, the 115 grain Extreme Penetrator from Underwood achieved an average velocity of 1,505 feet per second, which translates out to 578 foot-pounds of energy. Now, this is less than the other round we tested from Underwood, but I am going to say this is a solid copper projectile. So even though it might be moving a little slower and hitting with a little less force, it's probably going to have better penetration. So that's one thing you would want to keep in mind when looking at this round. So even though its numbers are a little less, you have to take into account the material it's made from and how that's going to perform. This is a round I would definitely carry for self-defense if I was worried about hard barrier penetration or penetration overall. All right, now let's move on to a company that is known for their pretty hot ammunition, and that is Doubletap. We're going to be testing their 125 grain jacketed hollow point round, which they rate at 1,450 feet per second, which translates out to 584 foot-pounds of energy. That's a pretty hot rating. Let's see how it does at the range. Okay, at the range, the 125 grain jacketed hollow point double tap ammunition is actually achieving an average velocity of 1,537 feet per second, and that translates out to 656 foot-pounds of energy. That's a good hot round, and they must have definitely rated this out of a 4-inch barrel because that's almost 100 feet per second more than it's rated for. So this round right here, definitely a potent self-defense round. All right, let's move on to our final round here, and this is a 115 grain Montana Gold jacketed hollow point from Minuteman Ammunition. Now, the manufacturer rates this right on the box here at 1,550 feet per second, which translates out to 614 pounds of energy. That's a hard-hitting round. Let's see how it does at the range. Okay, what we actually got out of this round at the range, out of my Beretta, out of this 115 grain jacketed hollow point Montana Gold bullet from Minuteman Ammo, we achieved an average of 1,624 feet per second, and that translates out to 674 foot-pounds of energy. This is probably the most potent ammo we tested today. This ammo is screaming. All right, when you look at all 6 ammos here together, every one of them performed better than advertised. Like I said, some are out of a 4-inch barrel for their manufacturer advertising, some are out of a 5-inch barrel, etc. But every one of them did exceptionally well. Every one of them, I would say, is at least as hot as the box says, maybe a little hotter. The least performing ammo on this chart is probably the 125 grain jacketed hollow points from Gold Dot, but you were still getting 1,428 feet per second and 566 foot-pounds of energy. That's definitely not a weak round, and even though that's the weakest one on the chart, it's still very powerful. And the one on this chart that I would say would have the best performance when it came to hard barrier penetration is that Underwood Extreme Penetrator, moving at 1,505 feet per second and hitting with 578 foot-pounds with a solid copper bullet is going to have extreme penetration, which I guess is why they call it the Extreme Penetrator. So if you're looking for penetration, I would choose that round right there. But the overall best performer in the group is the Minuteman Ammo. That 115 grain jacketed hollow point is moving at 1,624 feet per second and hitting with the most force, which is 674 foot-pounds of energy. Now, some people will say, foot-pounds of energy don't mean anything. Penetration means everything. Well, energy is what translates to penetration. If you have a round that hits with 2 pounds of energy, it's not going to penetrate at all. So that foot-pound rating is how you determine what penetration you're likely to get. So before you start screaming, foot-pounds don't mean anything, take a course on physics and learn it actually means everything. The mass of the bullet and the speed it's traveling mean everything when it comes to penetration. The only other small factor is bullet design, and most bullets are very similar, except in the case of that Extreme Penetrator, which we pointed out. So, like I said, penetration is very dependent on mass and speed, and that translates to foot-pounds of energy. So at the end of the day here, if I had to choose one of these rounds for carry, it's either going to be probably the Underwood or the Minuteman. Those would be my 2 favorites from this, especially that Minuteman, since it's not only the hardest hitting round of the bunch, it's also by far the cheapest round of the bunch. And I'm a cheap guy, so I like that factor also. But like I said, you can't go wrong with any of these. In fact, you can't go wrong with 357 SIG ammunition, period. You're looking at a semi-automatic caliber round here that still gives you good capacity, but hits almost as hard as a 357 Magnum. So this is an excellent round for self-defense. If you ever have the chance to choose a gun in 357 SIG, I say go for it because it is an amazing caliber. You can see here it performs very well. And I wish it was more popular. It isn't, but I wish it was. But hopefully in the future, more people will start to realize what a great round this is, and we'll start to see more guns chambered in it.